welcome to Math 096, Lecture 32. Last time in Lecture 31 we talked about multiplying polynomials, but in that world we only multiplied where one of our polynomials was a monomial. Today we're going to check out what happens if we're looking at problems that don't involve monomials. So our first example for the day is example 2, directions multiply, and for part A we're going to be multiplying 5x minus 2 by x plus 4. Well, this first polynomial has two terms, so that's an example of a binomial. And our second polynomial also has two terms, so that's another example of a binomial. So that means we're multiplying a binomial times a binomial. Well, in option 1, we're going to see that we can take the ideas that we talked about last time and extend them. So last time we talked about distribution. We're going to extend that idea of distribution to work for binomial times binomial problems. So I can say that I'm going to take the binomial of x plus 4 and I'm going to distribute that through to the two terms in the first binomial. So my first term in my first binomial is 5x. I'm going to distribute the x plus 4 through to that, which means I'm going to multiply it times the x plus 4. And then my second term in my first binomial is negative 2. I'm going to distribute the x plus 4 to that as well, which means I'm going to multiply the negative 2 times x plus 4. Now that I've done that, then, I have two problems like problems we looked at last time. This is a monomial, 5x, times the binomial x plus 4. That's a distribution problem as well. So distribute the 5x through to the x, we're going to get 5x squared. Distribute the 5x through to the positive 4, that's going to be a positive 20x. Now I'll do the same thing with the negative 2 and the x plus 4. When I distribute the negative 2 through, you have to be careful about making sure that not only are you distributing the 2, but also the negative. So if I distribute the negative 2 through to the positive x, that's going to be a negative 2x. Then when I distribute the negative 2 through to the positive 4, I'm going to get a negative 8. Now, on the board, what I'm going to do is leave a little bit of vertical space here, because I'm going to come back and talk about these pieces in a moment. So I'm just going to leave that now, and on your notes, I would suggest that you do the same thing. And then down here, let's go ahead and combine some like terms. 5x squared doesn't have a friend, so he's going to come down. And then 20x and negative 2x, those are like terms because they have the same variable to the same power. So they can come together as a positive 18x. And then finally my negative 8 comes down, doesn't have any friends, so it doesn't combine with anybody. So our final answer here is 5x squared plus 18x minus 8. Now our second option says, could we do this problem and not have to worry about all of this distribution work? Could we somehow go directly to this line right here, where we have the 5x squared, the 20x, the negative 2x, and the negative 8? And the answer is, if you look at things just the right way, you can find a way of getting to this particular line. So the question is, what is that special way of looking at things? Well, this 5x squared, let's think about where that particular piece came from. It came from multiplying the 5x times the x. So I'm going to go ahead and put a bracket there to describe those two pieces. And then I need to have a word to say something about where these two are in terms of the two binomials. Well, the 5x is the first term in the first binomial. And this x is the first term in the second binomial. So I'm going to go ahead and label this first. And then I'm going to circle the letter f on first and come over here and just write that f. Now my 20x. The 20x came from the 5x and the 4. So I'm going to come down here and put a bracket on those two. The 5x and the 4 were multiplied together to give me that 20x. Well, this 5x is as far to the left as I possibly can go. And the positive 4 is as far to the right as I possibly can go. So one way of describing those two pieces are the two outer pieces. They're as far out to the left and as far out to the right as I could possibly be. So I'm going to call those the outer two terms. And I'll circle the letter O and come over here and write that letter O. The negative 2x then came from these two pieces, the negative 2 and the x. Well, if these are called the outer two terms, the negative 2 and the x are called the inner two terms. They're the ones that are right next door to each other inside the two polynomials. I'm going to circle the letter I and write an I over here. And then finally, my negative 8 came from the negative 2 and the positive 4. The negative 2 and the positive 4 are the last two terms. The negative 2 is the last term in my first binomial. The positive 4 is the last term in my second binomial. So I'm going to circle L and come over here and write that L. So if you look at this line then, I just wrote down the word FOIL. So that's what option 2 is. Option 2 is to think about the word FOIL. And that gives you an idea of how to do this distribution problem without fully doing the distribution. So you multiply the two first terms together and you get 5x squared. Then you multiply the two outer terms together and you get a 20x. You multiply the two inner terms together and you get a negative 2x. You multiply the two last terms together, you get a negative 8. And then you combine like terms and you get 5x squared plus 18x minus 8.